Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Secrets for an Inspirational Life. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope that you are all well and that you are all peaceful wherever you are in the world. Now, one of the things that life offers us is the pleasure and the beauty of human contact, and also what that brings with it. And hopefully we can deeply connect to each other on a physical, a spiritual, and an emotional level. It's not always possible to find the people that are sort of our people, but nevertheless, we are not solitary beings. We are really part of mankind, and we should really try our utmost to help each other, especially in these times. And it is really essential to feel part of something greater than ourselves, as this can give us focus and direction in our life. If we are able to find people that we can be open with and share our anxieties and fears in a safe way, whether that be friends, family, or even professional therapists, it helps us to overcome the sadness and loneliness that we sometimes all can feel. So that's why I'm really, really happy to have in today's episode a really interesting guest who is a mindset and behavioral coach, and that is Zuhaib Khan. He's going to correct me. I hope I've pronounced that correctly. He helps men find their purpose by helping them gain clarity and success. And this is something that came about after he himself suffered from depression. And it is through conquering this himself and conquering his fears that led him to become a successful coach and motivational speaker. And today, Zuhaib shares his journey with us, and hopefully you will join us on what I am sure will be a very, very interesting talk. So without further ado, welcome, Zuhaib.
Thank you so much. And yes, you pronounced my name absolutely perfect. Not many people can do that. So
I'm really happy about that. How are you?
Thank you. I'm absolutely fine. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Good. Thank you so much for coming on to the show today. And, I was reading about you, like I said earlier, and the things that you say and the things that you have done. And you're a very, very wise person, I have to say. And I really like what you're doing. Now, all of this comes from an inspirational story, doesn't it? That began a long time ago to lead you to where you are today. So if you don't mind, Zuhaib, if you would like to begin with the episode by just telling us a little bit about your life and what you've done and where you've come from and how you've reached where you are today.
Sure, pleasure. Thank you for having me here, and it's my pleasure to share my story.
Thank you.
I hope and I believe that with my story, I can help some lives, and people can pick up some good things. I would love to share. So I was born and brought up in Kuwait. We are 4 brothers, mum and dad. So we used to live in Kuwait. Migrated to originally from Pakistan, so migrated back to Pakistan during the Gulf War. Stayed there for a couple of years, and as we were discussing before, during one of my session with a psychologist, she obviously we were going through, and she was asking me about a happy memory, and when I dig deep into my past and I was trying to search for the happy memory, I struggled when I was having that session with her, and I struggled to find that one happy moment, one happy memory. And so the earliest memory I could go and I could reach out was my memory of being at the refuge camp in Jordan, I believe, or what food they had, and I struggled to find my earliest happy memory. Obviously, I had a few happy memories when I was a little bit older and wiser. So it was very eye-opening for me because it's very rarely when someone sits down and try to reflect on his or her past and bring all the happy memories back. So I grew up in Kuwait. My school, my college, and I moved to London when I was 19. So I've been in London since then. It was a different shift for me, moving from Kuwait, Pakistan to London. There was a lot of cultural change, a lot of environmental change. And it took me a while to understand who I am as a person. Everybody is unique. Everybody is born with a unique, unique set of assets. They are good at certain things, they are bad at certain things. So throughout my life, when I was growing up, when I was in my school and in my college, I was a very safe boy. I was a very safe man. I was afraid to take risks. I was afraid to take up challenges. I was afraid to take part in sports. I was a very confined, introvert person, and I thought that's just normal. And there was a few factors, and I didn't realize why I am the person I was up until a few years ago, before I took up coaching. It was a very, very, it was less than normal. I was normal. I was normal for my own self. I don't know how others perceived me, but I was normal. It was, I think one of the hardest part was, while I was growing up, was I was very scared to be who I am now or who I was at that time. So I put up this a person who was different for people, for the outside world, and there was a different person inside me. So while I was growing up, and it all makes sense now when I go back and look at my past and I look at my core values and I look at different aspects of my present and past. It was very different. I mean, the feeling people, I think, who are going through the similar phase would relate to me. I was pretending to be someone who I was not deep inside me, and it was very frustrating. It was very hard because I wanted to be someone who I wasn't, and it was very unfortunate. And I'm not blaming here. I'm not blaming anyone. Maybe it was the culture, the environment, or my upbringing, and I'm not questioning any of that. But that's how I perceived my environment, my culture, and my upbringing. And I know it can be very sensitive, depending on what culture, what background, or what your upbringing is. So, and that's how I grew up. I was told that men need to be tough. They have to be off. A man has to be something like this. So they are. You're not supposed to cry. If you cry too much, you're a crybaby, or you can't act in a certain way. You can, if you're going through something, just get over it. You're a man. These are the common things which I grew up, and I'm pretty sure most of the people can relate to me. It's very common in movies. It's very common, people saying these things out to every other. To boys and men. So it was really hard for me to show my emotions, to show what I really want, what I am as a person. And that basically what it did, I built a wall around me. I I became a person which was very different for the outside world, and it was very different when I was on my own. As I said before, I am a very introvert person, but I was an introvert on a totally different level. I had friends, but I never had friends, which means I was very friendly, but I had no friends who I could open up to, or who I could be who I was at that time, who I really wanted to be. And that carried on for a very, very long time. And I got into some relationships, whether it was my friendships or personal relationships, where I was seeking someone else's attention in order to please that person. I had, again, as I said, I was friendly, but then I was seeking a friend who I could open up to, and I end up being friends with someone just for the sake of having that tag that I have a friend, and I was there just to please,
other people.
My friend. Other people, exactly. And that took a toll on me, and I was diagnosed with depression. And at that time, again, it took me a really hard time to accept that, I can actually have a depression. And again, people are mistaken that the symptoms for depressions are same for both genders, but that's not correct. Men can have different kind of depression symptoms than a woman, and
it's also, I suppose, it's individual to the person. It doesn't matter if you're male or female. The fact is that every person has their own story, and of course, the symptoms are different, the stories are different, and it took me. So the doctor prescribed me the antidepressants, and I said to myself, I'm not going to go on antidepressants. It wasn't that severe, so she said, it was a minor antidepressant, but she said, take antidepressants, it will help you to recover it and overcome. And I said no. That was the time when I kind of shifted my life. That was the time when I said no. I want to make it better. I want to make it better for myself. I want to make it better for people around me, my family. And that was the whole shift for me. That was the whole shift. I started investing in my personal health. I started investing in my personal development. I started reading a lot of books. I started going to seminars, to understand life from a different perspective, and especially the mental health. How does it affect your body, your emotions, and then I started looking into coaching, and that's how I got into coaching, because I know how, the feeling of being trapped in your own mind and in your own body, and how painful it can be, especially when you can't express it out to others. Zuhaib, tell us a little bit about that, because you talk about also, I was reading about living in a two-dimensional world. And that is of interest to me. How did you feel? How did you know that you felt different to everybody else? Because innately we are different. None of us are the same. So what was it that was the most difficult thing that you couldn't communicate or express as a person? Again, going back from my childhood to my adulthood, I struggled. I couldn't emote. I couldn't emote at all, whether it was with my family, whether it was my friends, or whether it was my wife. I thought showing the sign of either crying or opening up to your vulnerabilities to others is a sign of a weakness. And when I said living in two-dimensional world, it was more of, for me, it was black and white. It was, you're a man. You are supposed to live in a certain way. You can't go and start emoting your emotions, whether by crying or whether by, opening up to someone. So, it was a world where even if I wanted to cry, I would struggle to cry in front of anyone, whether it's my
whether it's my family or whether it's my wife or whether it's my friends. Of course, I have done that. I'm not saying it's never happened, but it took me a lot of battle within that. Is it okay for me to do this here in front of these people, or is it okay for me to do in front of to open up your vulnerabilities, to open up and speak to someone? That was a no for me, and that I struggled with the most in my past.
Now, I know that all of us, whether that be, male or female, everybody has a struggle of some sort, and a struggle of expressing their emotions or being heard in some way. Do you think it's partly because of how the environment of where you were brought up? Because the Middle East, isn't it, that part of the world is a very masculine place, and it's difficult to be, in a way, sort of to have that tenderness of the heart, isn't it?
I agree. I agree and I disagree. I think, yes, the country, the culture you're living in, yes, it plays a massive impact, and but it also the environment of your house, your home, where you're growing up,
the family environment,
the family,
yeah.
that plays a very, very, very important role. I mean, you can live in a kind of a country, but then you can have a totally different opposite environment at home. So yes, I agree, and I agree and I disagree with what you said. So it's hard. I mean, it's hard when you are in an environment where you can't communicate or express or emote or compromise, because these are considered as a sign of a weakness. And you have to portray, being a man, you have to portray that you are strong. You have to portray that you are strong in a way that, I mean, if we go back in 60s, we go back in 50s, men has a different responsibility than women. And it's all changed now. We are equal, kind of in a Western world. Let's say in a Western world, because
in a Western world, yes, but not possibly in other parts of the world.
Yes. So let's say in Western world we are equal. We consider to be equal, whether it's considered to be our emotions or our workload or how looking after kids or working or earning. So that's considered as equal. But if I go to a different part of the world where the man is considered to be the bread and butter of to earn the bread and butter for your house or for your home, you are meant to be that strong person who your family, your kids, your brothers, they're looking up to you. So you can't go and be emotionally weak. You can't express your emotions in front of them, because that will be considered as a weakness.
Yes, because you're right. Way back, if we go back 40, 50 years, the way that men and women were is completely different to how it is these days, especially in the Western world, for sure. Maybe a lot of people suffer because there are these stereotypes that people like to label other people in some ways. And this in itself creates such a deep insecurity within people, because in the end, if you look at the media, if you look all around you, people then don't know how to behave, because what it comes naturally to them, they might be persecuted for whatever reason that may be.
Absolutely.
And then the fear element, doesn't it, Zuhaib? The fear element comes in, because what you're feeling as a soul, let's put it on another level, what you're feeling as a soul, and you want to express yourself, depending on where you are and the way that society views people, you can feel suppressed or oppressed. So, that maybe for men or for women, depending, each sex has its own, balance in and out of this situation. So I don't know what the answer is to that. What do you think that the actual issue is?
I believe, if we look at society in general, so not Western or any other part of the world. So if you look at society in general, we are afraid of being labeled, as you said, afraid of being stereotyped. So in general, the boys are meant to be raised that they have to be more confident, they have to have success and the composure, and being emotional in most of the society or most of the culture is considered to be as a girly aspect. And as a soul and as a body, if your emotion, your soul doesn't know that you are a male or a female or how to emote. Now, how you actually emote your emotions, that depends you as a person. Your mind tells you that you have to emote. Now, how you emoting, that's up to you as a person. So when we label that, let's say if you have a boy growing up and all he get to hear while growing up that crying it's for a girl, or I should be stopped crying when I have to cry, or I have to man up. When he grows up with all the negativity portrayed by others, which is not the reality, is portrayed by others, he will automatically raise his children, especially the boys, at some point in his life. So as a human, we are scared to be labeled or to be stereotyped, yes. And that's the society plays a very, very important role in that. When we dismiss our feeling, or when we dismiss about what we are inside, then that will take a toll on your mental health.
Because we're suppressing who we really are, aren't we?
Indeed. And that will obviously have impact on your behavior, impact on your emotional expressions, and obviously ultimately, mental health.
Yeah, I have a friend actually, Zuhaib, and we have this thing, and we travelled all over the world together, and we had many adventures. But the one thing that we realised as we went all over the world is that fundamentally people are the same, more than they are different, in their emotions, in their suffering, in their joy. And she said to me once, she said, so many people are trying to be a fish when in fact they're a bird. And she likened that to her life because she was always pretending to be somebody else, because she thought that by being somebody else, she would be loved, she would be cared for. But in fact, it had the opposite effect, because she wasn't then true to herself. And I think that comes to all of us, unless we are true to ourselves and to who we are as souls, I think that we will continually suffer.
Absolutely. I absolutely agree with you. Sometimes what happens when people, when they're growing up, when they are trying to understand what they are and how they are, either they have to suppress their true being because of an environment or lifestyle, or potentially not be able to achieve what they really want in life, or potentially they suppress their true being of fear of being stereotyped, or fear of being labeled. That, I am let's say, a very randomly just came in my head. So I'm a guy and I want to be a belly dancer, for example. Now, sorry, I'm just...
That's a really good one, actually. Because it is like you can imagine it's so extreme in its example. Yes, that's why I laughed.
So it's I will probably think like 1,000 million times before I will actually get into that type of dancing, because what my family will think, or what my friends will think, or what my society will think, or what my neighbors will think. So yes, your friend is absolutely right. We try to be someone who we are not, and because of the fear, and it's just completely fear, and it's unfortunate because I think everybody is beautiful. Everybody has their own unique personality, and people should work towards their own personalities and their inner being, which we just call core values. And once they understand their core values, whatever they decide to do in their life, it becomes much more easier. It becomes much more easier and much more happier. Life becomes much more happier.
And that's something that is your job now, isn't it? That's what you are trying, Zuhaib, to help people with. Tell us a little bit about that work of yours.
So as we were talking about earlier, my passion sits, and I'm not saying I only focus. My passion sits with men and their mental health, and the reason because of my life story and what happened to me. And as a man, I understand that when men is raised in a society that promotes traditional masculinity, how complicated they become when it comes to feeling their own emotions. I have tried over the number of years to shut my emotions off completely. And what I see people around me, especially men, they are more likely to use external methods to cope with the inner pain or turmoil or emotions, because obviously if you suppress your emotions, if you suppress your pain inside, you have to deal with it somehow. There are different ways and methods what people use to come over that pain. So my passion sits with men and their mental health, and I love to work with more men, because men's mental health is considered to be a very taboo subject. People, especially men, in fact men, there's a lot of criticism I get sometimes from
men. Really?
Yeah. Funny enough, I posted something on Facebook about mental health and depression, and I had like 400 comments on that post, and out of 400, 300 were like negative, and they were like, "Oh, you have to, if you want to cry or whinge, go on a women's chat group. This is a man's group." And it's surprising.
What did you post? What did you post that got such a reaction?
I posted something along the line that So my post was about toxic masculinity and how the society and what we just talked about is basically boys don't cry and man up and that sort of thing. And I said that culture needs to stop, because I'm a guy, and if I have a boy, I will ask my boy I will tell my boy that it's fine for you to cry and to express your emotions. I'm not going to say, "Oh, stop crying because you're a boy and you can't cry," because what will happen is that boy will not cry and let his emotions out. 10 years, 15 years later, that boy will either become aggressive or he will emote his emotions out through anger. Because again, unfortunately, in certain parts of the world, men being angry is considered to be normal. It's considered to be, yes, he's a guy, he is just venting out his emotions. So, you will be surprised at how much criticism.
And they didn't like what you had written?
Yeah.
Now,
basically, yes.
you have used this word a couple of times so that I'm understanding, and the listeners as well. You describe it as toxic masculinity. What is that?
Now, it's a word which is, again, very controversial. I believe, personally, masculinity or feminism is not toxic. It's the person or society or the culture that makes it toxic. It's the individual that makes it toxic. And what I meant, again, not focusing on any specific culture or society or any part of the world, but more in other parts of the world than in Western. It's normal for for when boys are suppressed to emote their emotions in a certain way. Like, I have not said this to many people, and I'm just giving you as an example that when I was growing up, I was bad in sports. Any sports, I was like scared to take part in any sports. And the only reason was that when I used to play cricket, I think it was, with my friends, and I think a couple of times they said to me, "Oh, you throw like a girl." And that one statement it just stuck in my head for the rest of my life. And up until today, that I don't play any sports just for the fear of that, I will not play cricket because if I throw a ball, I will not throw it properly and someone will turn around and say, "You throw like a girl." And it's a tiny statement, and I'm pretty sure my friends and whoever said it, I can't even remember who said it, probably said it in a lighter way, but because I heard the sentence few times in my life, rather than saying, "Oh, you're rubbish at cricket," or "You're rubbish at throwing things," the line was like, "Oh, you throw like a girl." Now, I'm pretty sure there are so many girls who throw far more better than men. I'm not denying that, but I'm talking about 16, 17, 18 years ago. So that is toxic masculinity, I'm pretty sure you have heard that, when men or guys, they go through, let's say they're not in the best of moods, and, and I'm pretty sure, and I take my hands up, I must have used this term in the past as well. Sometimes you go up to guys, "Oh, why are you in a bad mood? Are you going through your periods or something?" It's a common thing, but it just becomes so common that that's what toxic masculinity means. It means that men can't show emotions in a certain way. They just because they are labeled in a certain way. That's what.
But is that to do with masculinity? Because masculinity in its pure form and femininity doesn't have any of this criticism. It is actually in its pure essence who each of us is, isn't it? It's maybe society's slant on it of how one should be, as opposed to really how one is. So again, we are in a way brainwashed to some extent of what we should be like. Men should be like this, women should be like this. But in reality, that's not real, is it?
No, absolutely not. And as I said, it's all man-made rules. Again, I'm saying man-made rules. The term is man-made rules. Why not female-made rules? You know what I'm trying to...
I understand what you're saying. I understand what you're saying. But, so what if you cry,
Exactly.
So what if you're gentle? So, I think that makes somebody a more beautiful person. If you were gentle, if you were kind, if you were sweet, but also there as a protector, let's say, then there is nothing wrong with that. That is actually someone who is unique in that sense, isn't it?
Absolutely. I completely agree. So what I meant with the toxic masculinity word, and that was the post I got the most criticism from men, it's basically what it means is it only refers to actions that discourage any men to display of emotions. So if you are angry, other than anger, if you display your emotions in any other form or way, it's basically deemed as non-dominant. You are a male, you have to behave in a dominant way in a given situation. And that's what toxic masculinity is, and it's not. That's not how we are. That's how we are labeled as, and that is very unfortunate. I mean, deep inside me, I'm a very soft person. And I'm very soft deep inside me. But do I display it? Well, now obviously I do. But do I portray it to my friends and family 10, 15 years ago? Maybe, maybe not. How many people in the world do actually know me, the real Zuhaib? Now it's different. But previously, I don't think so anybody did. I think up until the most part of my life, nobody actually knew who I was deep inside me.
But you knew who you were, didn't you?
Yes, of course. I knew who I was, but I was too scared. I was too afraid. Afraid is the right word. I was too afraid that if I portray real me, I will be labeled as someone which is not considered as dominant or as masculine.
Which then leads, I suppose, to a lot of cultures. If you're not dominant in that way and you're not showing your power in that way, then it also it's like a whole domino effect. Then you're not even worth anything, because then it becomes a thing about value and worth, doesn't it? If you don't display the common, displays of I can be very good at sports, or I can fight, or then actually you're not really a man.
That's true, and most of my teenage and adulthood, I struggled with my self-esteem and self-doubt. Even when I came here, I was like, okay, I mean, am I gonna be successful? I'm just a brown guy in a white world sort of thing, and I struggled. So that had impact on my not only emotional health, but my self-esteem, and I use the word self-worth, and that impacted me a lot.
So Zuhaib, what would you say was the most transformational moment in your life that you decided to change your life?
So there was two times, I would say. First, when I was diagnosed with depression, and the doctor said, "Oh, you have to go on antidepressant," I was like, "I don't think so, and something needs to be done." And second was the most beautiful moment in my life when I held my eldest daughter in my hand.
Oh.
And I cried like a baby.
Oh.
And I'm not ashamed to say this. I cried like I was sobbing. Actually.
Good for you. Good for you.
And the whole time, because it happened so quick, that the whole time I was being this strong husband for my wife, to emotionally support her. But as soon as she was out and she was, when I heard her first cry, I was like nonstop. I was like a baby. I was like sobbing. I think my wife will probably agree to this, that I'm probably a better father than a better husband.
Why is that?
I'm sure. Well, the thing is, when you're a husband, you're different. When you become a father, you just become this person. So I was telling to my wife, I said, I have become so emotional now that, once I become a father, I'm very emotional. I look at the TV and a movie and there's something emotional and my eye goes all watery. And I was like, I wasn't like this before. So, that was another transformational change in me, that I wanted to become a better person before I become a father or a husband or a son or a brother. I wanted to become a better person, and the only way I could become a better person, it was to understand who I am or who I was at that time, and what are my core values, why I am the way I am. And that changed everything. That changed everything, because I am much more happier, and I think because I am happier, I'm keeping my family happier.
Yes, that's important, isn't it? Because it's impossible to make other people happy. You know, I always say this, happiness is a fleeting moment. But we can do our best to make life easier for those that we love. But it's absolutely impossible unless we try to achieve that within ourselves, isn't it?
No, of course. I mean, if you are, let's say, okay, so, I think I've covered, I don't know if I covered this before or not. So let's say if I am not happy inside, ultimately it's going to reflect outside. Or if I don't love myself first, or if I don't work on my happiness and what makes me happy deep inside me, ultimately it will impact your environment, and it will impact the other people you are with.
For sure. And do you think that finding this peace, Zuhaib, is what makes you feel unique in some way?
No, definitely. The moment, it was like an eye opener when I found out my core values. It made much more sense that, this is the decision I am. This is the decision why I'm making this decision, or why I am the way I am. And and as I said, it's not like I have to work on it constantly. I have to go back on my happy moments, my peace moments, to remind myself, because your life throws at you your work stress, your family stress, your different things, different challenges every single day. But it's up to you how you keep your mind, to go back to that peace moment, to go back to your happy moments, and reflect back on those moments to relive that emotion. So that as simple. Once you are happy with yourself, once you come to terms with yourself, everything makes much more sense, and everything becomes much more easier.
Very true. Very true words. And tell me, how do you overcome, for example, challenges in your life, both personally and professionally? How do you use a technique or a method, or what helps you overcome challenges in your life?
So let's say I don't take work stress anymore. I may get stressed for a couple of seconds, or a couple of minutes, maybe half an hour, 1 hour, but then eventually it goes off. There are different techniques you can work with, and there's different NLP techniques which you can work with. The one technique which I can share, and which is very easy to do, is by talking to your inner child. And it's very simple. So basically what you do is you be in an environment when you're alone, when it's quiet. Basically close your eyes, you go deep inside and look for your inner child. And you just talk to your inner child and spend some time with them, with the person, with your inner child. See what that inner child wants at that time. Reassure that inner child that you are there for him or her. And that brings a lot of peace.
And is that something that you help your clients with? For example, if someone was to come to you and needed help, what is the sort of help that you offer?
As I said, I help people from all aspects of life, mainly to overcome their fears, mainly to overcome the dark side, which they are hesitant to touch upon, because I believe you are you with all your good, bad, and ugly. You can't kill part of you to become something you want to be. You can be whatever you want to be with all your past whatever has happened to the past. And basically, I just give them the clarity, and we have different, obviously, when in NLP and in coaching, we have different techniques, or which depending on the client, if they're going through a trauma, or if they're going through a habit change, or if they're going through a mindset change, or they're going through a behavior. So there's different techniques which I can implement, but there's few techniques which people can do at home, like, as I said, speaking to the inner child, that just bring them inner peace. So it all depends what a client comes with.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll just use that technique. But sometimes it's just I go with the flow. We just have a conversation. I remember I was having a conversation with one of the clients, and it literally took me 20 minutes. It literally took me 20 minutes phone call, and my client was like, "Oh wow, I can't believe it was this simple."
Because I suppose because you are so good at doing it, because you've been through all of this before, haven't you? So it makes you absolutely exceptionally talented in the skill of being able to understand people that are going through it, I suppose.
That is correct, yes.
Yeah, which gives you a uniqueness in that, because I talk to many guests and they all say to me, we that have been through all of this are best equipped to help other people, because unless you've been through it, it is very difficult sometimes to understand other people. Now, Zuhaib, do you do one-to-one online, or how do you, if someone wants to come to you, how do you run your practice?
So at the moment, because of the blessing of coronavirus, it's all online. So yes, okay. So it's mostly Zoom or Facebook, or if it's a UK-based client, I do over the phone as well. So yeah, currently it's all online. Okay. I think the whole world is shifting to online now.
Yes, I know. Now, what interests me is what inspires you, because you must have something or someone that inspires you in your life.
What inspires me? I think I wanted to prove a point to myself, and the point was that a middle-class brown boy in a white world can be successful. Now, no disrespect to any race or culture or religion. The point was, when you look up these the famous, the rich of there's no person which inspires me. I think what inspires me is to be a better person. It's to be a better human being. It's to be, yes, successful is one part of your inspiration. That's your ultimate goal. Again, success is different from person to person. But I think my inspiration is I want to be a role model for my family, for my kids. I want to leave a legacy behind where my kids can look up and say, yes, that was my father. He was a good human being before famous, rich, successful father, X, Y, and Z. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I aspire to be a better human, and yeah, regardless of who I was and who I am in terms of my relations.
And what would you say is the most fulfilling part of your life?
So far, I think, and I'm a very hungry person, I mean, I can't say, I'm a very, if one chapter is, if I achieve something, then it's always the next thing and then always the next thing. So far, whatever has happened to me, it's been fulfilling. It's been fulfilling to an extent, obviously. It's fulfilling enough for me to take the next step. And the journey continues, and the journey will continue. And being a father, being a husband, being a father has been one important and major fulfilling aspect of my life. But that's just a step on my onwards journey.
That's so lovely, that each part is fulfilling in its own way. And I know we were talking, before about this. And what I like is your attitude about life, in that, we meet people for a reason and everyone has something to teach us.
Absolutely. As I said, we were discussing earlier, I have a philosophy. So if I am with anyone, whether good or bad, whether it's at work or personal life or whoever, I will learn from that person everything. I will implement good in my life or wherever I could, and I will keep the bad not to implement. And everybody teaches you something. All the people you meet in your life, or the people you come across in your life, you learn, use them as learning tool. Learn from them, take the good, keep the bad. Don't make it complicated. It's very simple. Life is very simple. It's only us who makes it complicated.
We do, don't we? A lot. We overthink, and we make all sorts of castles out of molehills and all sorts of things. And I'm really happy. Thank you so much for coming on today, Zuhaib, because it's been really interesting to look also from a male perspective. We haven't had that, about mental health. So I'm really happy that you came on. Now, if you could offer one sort of piece of advice in a few lines to people out there that are listening now, what would you give that has helped you in your life?
Open up, talk, express. These are the three things I would recommend to everyone. Regardless, if you are vulnerable, you can still be strong with your vulnerabilities. You are beautiful with your vulnerabilities. You are what you are. Don't be afraid of what people will think of you, because it took me a while to open up. Not only to open up with myself, but to open up with all my weaknesses and all my vulnerabilities to other. So whoever you have in your life, who you can trust, who you are in that compatibility, or in that relationship where you can open up without being afraid of being judged, open up to that person. The more you keep your emotions to yourself, now this is again regardless of your gender, the more you open up, the more you talk about how you feel, the better you feel. You may not get the help, but you will always have that hearing ear who will hear you out. If you are unfortunate and if you don't have someone in your life that you can open up to, seek a confidential professional help. But just don't keep it to yourself. And this is the part where I struggle the most. Just because of the fear of being labeled, or fear of being others' opinion. I mean, life will continue on. People will have their opinion about everything and anyone. You are the most important person for yourself. You have to come to peace with yourself. You have to love yourself first. So please, just talk, just open up. Don't suppress your emotions. They are there to be expressed. So that would be my few words of advice.
Wonderful advice, actually, because we all feel the need to have help at some point in our life. And it is courageous, isn't it, to take that step to actually, in not feeling alone, is by asking for help for those. If people aren't around us that can help us, then there's always someone out there, isn't there, Zuhaib, that can help. It's just having that courage to value our life enough to do that.
I believe the world is full of beautiful souls, and there's always someone for someone in any shape or form to have that helping hand, helping ear, I should say.
That's beautiful. I believe the world is full of beautiful souls as well, And my mum always says to me, you know, you're living in a fairyland, and my family and that say that to me. And I said, well, I really don't care, because it's very nice there. And I want to always think the best of people. It's something that gives
Absolutely.
a richness to life, doesn't it? Which is far more valuable than anything material that we could have.
Absolutely. And it's just like what you expect from universe, the universal will give it to you. So if you expect love and happiness and beautiful souls, universe will give it back to you, the happiness and the love and the beautiful souls.
Yes, it's a mirror of us, isn't it? Whatever we are emanating, whatever energetically we are giving out as souls, it is a like attracts like, doesn't it?
Indeed.
So, Zuhaib, where can people contact you? What is the best place for them to reach out?
So I'm on my Facebook page, which is Mindset Behaviour Coach -Zach, or my Facebook page, which is Zuhaib Khan, or my Instagram page, which is I am Zuhaib Khan.
Okay, so people are free to contact you there and reach out and, you know, make an appointment or whatever they want. You're very happy to talk to everyone.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
It would be my pleasure.
Oh, that's so lovely. Thank you so much, Zuhaib, for coming on today. Really, it is very insightful, I have to say. And there's a lot to think about there because I'm a lady, I always look at things from my perspective, obviously, but it's very good and very healthy to also see it from the other perspective. So thank you very much for sharing that with us, and please stay in touch.
Absolutely, and thank you, Mimi, for having me. It was absolutely a pleasure to talk to you and be on the show.
Yeah, you're very welcome. You're very welcome, and I wish you all the very best. And you know, I hope you help a lot of people out there, because a lot of people out there are in desperate need.
I am hopeful that I can change and I can help as many people as I can.
Wonderful. Thank you, and take care of yourself.
Thank you, Mimi.
Okay,
you.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Zuhaib Khan. What a fascinating subject that is, and also often tainted in sadness, I have to say, sadly. But what we have to realise very much in these days, that there are so many people out there that can help, and not to suffer in silence. This is the most important thing. Please reach out and ask for help. It is out there. Have hope and never give up. Never ever give up. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you will join me in the next episode. Until then, look after yourselves, take care, and lots of love.
Thank you for listening to Secrets for an Inspirational Life, brought to you by your host, Mimi Novic. Please remember to subscribe to the podcast, and see you in the next episode. For more information about Mimi Novic and her books, music, and inspirational work, take a look at her website, www.miminovic.co.uk.